Lee Hyun walked slowly through the busy food court of Nexus Station. His stomach made loud sounds, reminding him that he had not eaten a real meal in 3 days. The smell of cooking food from dozens of alien vendors filled the air around him. Each smell made his hunger worse. He reached into his pocket and counted his credits again. 57 credits. That was all the money he had left in the entire galaxy. 3 months ago, he owned a successful cargo shipping business. He had 5 ships and 20 workers. Now he had nothing. His business partner had stolen everything. The man took all the money from their accounts and disappeared to a distant star system. The court said they could not help because the theft happened in neutral space. Hyun lost his ships, his home and his future in one terrible week. Now he lived in the cheapest room on Nexus Station. The room was so small he could touch both walls with his arms spread wide. The bed was hard and the walls were thin. He could hear his neighbors arguing through the metal walls every night. Hyun stopped at a food stall that sold basic nutrition bars. The alien vendor had green skin and 6 arms. A sign said the bars cost 40 credits each. Hyun knew the bars would fill his stomach, but they tasted like cardboard mixed with chemicals. Still, 40 credits would leave him with 17 credits for tomorrow. He was about to buy a bar when he heard a strange sound. Someone was crying nearby. Hyun looked around and saw a small alien sitting behind a tiny food cart in a corner of the food court. The alien had blue skin and large dark eyes that were full of tears. The alien was trying to sell something that looked like soup in small bowls. A sign written in universal script said the food cost 50 credits. Hyun had never seen this type of alien before. The creature was about the size of a human child, with thin arms and a round head. Most people walked past the cart without looking. A few aliens stopped to smell the food, but they all walked away shaking their heads. The blue alien looked more sad each time someone left without buying anything. Hyun felt sorry for the creature. He knew what it was like to have no money and no hope. He walked over to the small cart and looked at the food. The soup had a rich brown color with strange vegetables floating in it. The smell was amazing, like nothing he had ever experienced. "Is this good?" Hyun asked in basic universal script. His translator device turned his words into sounds the alien could understand. The blue alien looked up with surprise. "Yes, very good," the creature said in a high musical voice. "Made with care. Made with love. But no one wants to buy." Hyun looked at his credits again. 50 credits was almost all his money. But the alien looked so sad and desperate. Hyun remembered when he first lost his business. He remembered sitting alone in his empty office crying because everything was gone. "I will buy 1 bowl," Hyun said. The alien's large eyes went wide with shock. "Really, you want to buy?" "Yes," Hyun said. He handed over 50 credits. The alien took the money with shaking hands. Then the creature served Hyun a bowl of the soup with great care. The alien added extra vegetables and sprinkled some kind of spice on top. Hyun tasted the soup. The flavor exploded in his mouth like a symphony of tastes he had never experienced. The soup was rich and complex with layers of flavor that seemed to change with each bite. The vegetables were soft and sweet. The spices made his tongue tingle in a pleasant way. "This is incredible," Hyun said honestly. "This is the best food I have ever tasted." The alien smiled for the first time. "You really like it?" "I love it," Hyun said. He ate the entire bowl quickly. When he finished, he felt more satisfied than he had in months. Hyun looked at his remaining 7 credits. He should save them for tomorrow. But the alien had given him such joy with this meal. The creature was clearly struggling, just like Hyun was struggling. Hyun made a decision that would change his life forever. "Here," he said, handing the alien his last 7 credits. "This is a tip. You are a great cook. Keep trying. Good things will happen." The alien stared at the credits with shock. Tears started flowing down the blue face again, but these were happy tears. "You are very kind," the alien said. "Very, very kind. I will never forget this." Hyun smiled and walked away. He had no money left, but he felt good about helping someone who needed it. He did not know that the small blue alien was not actually a struggling food vendor. The alien was Prince Vorthan of the Kalari Empire. He was one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. His ship had broken down near Nexus Station 3 days ago. He had been waiting for rescue while disguised as a common alien to avoid attention. The food Hyun bought was not simple soup. It was a royal delicacy made with spices that cost more than most people earned in a year. The 50 credits Hyun paid could have bought the same amount of food for 5,000 credits in any luxury restaurant. But Prince Vorthan was not thinking about money. In Kalari culture, sharing food created a sacred bond between people. When someone showed kindness to a stranger during hard times, it created something called a life debt. This debt had to be repaid 3 times over, no matter what. Prince Vorthan watched Hyun disappear into the crowd. He touched a small device on his wrist and spoke in his native language. "I need a full investigation on a human named Lee Hyun," he said. "Find out everything about him. Find out what he needs. Find out how we can help him." Hyun walked back to his small room, unaware that his simple act of kindness had just caught the attention of one of the galaxy's most powerful empires. He lay down on his hard bed and smiled, thinking about the amazing soup and the happy tears in the alien's eyes. Tomorrow he would figure out how to get more money. Tonight he would sleep well knowing he had helped someone who needed it. It was the best feeling he had experienced in months. Prince Vorthan sat in his rescue ship as it flew through space toward the Kalari homeworld. He could not stop thinking about the human who had bought his food. The prince had lived for 200 years and met thousands of different beings from across the galaxy. But he had never experienced such simple, honest kindness. The human had no idea who Vorthan was. The human saw only a struggling food vendor who needed help. And even though the human clearly had very little money, he still gave a tip. He even offered words of encouragement. In Kalari culture, this created a life debt that could never be ignored. Vorthan's honor demanded that he repay the human's kindness 3 times over. But first, he needed to learn everything about this Lee Hyun. "Report," Vorthan said to his chief advisor, a tall Kalari female named Cathara. "We have completed our investigation of the human," Cathara said, reading from a data tablet. "Lee Hyun, age 32, former owner of Hyun Shipping Company. The business was destroyed 3 months ago when his partner stole all their funds. He currently has no money, no job, and no family. He lives in the lowest quality housing on Nexus Station." Vorthan felt anger rise in his chest. This kind human was suffering while his thief partner lived freely somewhere in the galaxy. What about the partner who stole from him? Kim Tae-sung. He disappeared to the outer rim with approximately 2 million credits. The local authorities say they cannot pursue him because the crime happened in neutral space. "Then we will pursue him," Vorthan said firmly. "But first we must help Lee Hyun. He showed me kindness when I needed it most. Now I will show him the same." The prince spent the next day planning. He could not simply give Hyun money directly. That would be insulting in human culture, according to his cultural advisors. Humans had pride just like Kalari. The help had to seem natural, like good fortune rather than charity. 2 days later, Hyun woke up in his small room to find a message waiting on his communication device. The message was from the Nexus Station Trade Authority. "Congratulations," the message said. "You have been selected for our Random Trader Appreciation Program. As a reward for your years of honest trading, you have been awarded a Class C cargo ship and a standard trading license. Please report to Docking Bay 94 to claim your prize." Hyun read the message 3 times. Then he read it again. He had never heard of a Random Trader Appreciation Program. He had also been out of the trading business for 3 months. This had to be some kind of mistake. But when he arrived at Docking Bay 94, there was indeed a ship waiting for him. It was not a beautiful ship, but it was clean and functional. A droid handed him the ownership papers and the trading license. Everything was legal and official. "Is this really for me?" Hyun asked the droid. "Confirmed. Lee Hyun, human, registration number 7749 Alpha. Ship ownership transferred. Welcome back to the trading business." Hyun walked around his new ship in amazement. It was not big, but it was much better than anything he could have afforded. The cargo hold could carry enough goods to make a decent profit on short trading runs. While Hyun was discovering his new ship, a human woman was watching him from across the docking bay. Her name was Park Sora, and she was a reporter for the Galactic News Network. She had been on Nexus Station to write a story about trade disputes between different alien species. Sora had noticed unusual activity around the Kalari diplomatic section over the past few days. Kalari ships that were not scheduled to arrive had been coming and going. Diplomatic messages were being sent at all hours. Something important was happening, but no one would tell her what. Then she heard about the Random Trader Appreciation Program. Sora had been a reporter for 10 years, and she had never heard of such a program. When she investigated, she found that the program had been created just 3 days ago. Lee Hyun was the first and only winner. Sora was suspicious. She decided to interview this lucky human trader. "Excuse me," she said, approaching Hyun as he stood next to his new ship. "I'm Park So-ra from GNN. Could I ask you a few questions about your good fortune?" Hyun looked nervous. "I don't understand what happened. I never entered any contest. I don't know why they chose me." "Tell me about the last few days," So-ra said. "Did anything unusual happen? Did you meet anyone important?" Hyun thought about it. "Well, I bought lunch from an alien food vendor 2 days ago. A small blue alien who seemed very sad. The food was amazing, but that's the only unusual thing I can think of." So-ra made notes on her tablet. "What kind of alien?" "I had never seen that species before." "Blue skin, large dark eyes, about this tall?" Hyun showed her with his hands. "The alien was selling some kind of soup for 50 credits. So-ra's eyes went wide. She knew about alien species from her work as a reporter. A small blue alien with large dark eyes sounded like a Kalari. But Kalari were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They did not sell food from carts on space stations. "Did this alien say anything to you?" "Not much. Just that the food was made with love. Oh, and when I gave him a tip, he said he would never forget my kindness. He seemed very grateful." So-ra felt excitement building in her chest. She was beginning to see a pattern. An unknown Kalari on the station 2 days ago. Unusual diplomatic activity. And now a random human winning a contest that did not exist before. "Mr. Lee," she said carefully, "I think your lunch purchase may have been more important than you realize." Meanwhile, on the Kalari homeworld, Prince Vorthan was meeting with the Empire's Trade Council. The council controlled trade agreements with hundreds of different species across the galaxy. "We need to create new opportunities for Lee Hyun," the prince told the council. "He must be given the chance to succeed through his own efforts. We will simply make sure the opportunities are available." "What kind of opportunities?" asked Council Leader Vextar. "Trade routes that are currently unused. Contacts with species who need reliable human traders. Perhaps some protection in dangerous sectors. Nothing too obvious. He must feel that he is earning his success." The council members looked at each other with concern. They had never seen Prince Vorthan so interested in helping a single individual, especially an alien from a minor species like humans. "Your Highness," Vextar said carefully, "may we ask why this human is so important to you?" Prince Vorthan stood up and walked to a large window that showed the Kalari capital city below. "He showed me kindness when I was disguised and in need. He gave me his last credits and wished me well. In 200 years of life, no one has ever treated me with such simple, honest compassion. But surely you have been shown kindness before. I have been shown respect because I am a prince. I have been shown fear because of my power. I have been shown greed because of my wealth. But this human showed me kindness because he thought I needed help. He expected nothing in return. He did not even know who I was." The prince turned back to face the council. "This is the kind of being we should support. This is the kind of character that makes the galaxy a better place. We will help him succeed, and through him, we will learn more about human nature." Back on Nexus Station, Hyun was reading the instruction manual for his new ship. The more he read, the more amazed he became. The ship was equipped with the latest navigation systems and safety features. It even had a small but comfortable living space with a real bed and a kitchen. For the first time in months, Hyun felt hope returning to his heart. He could start trading again. He could build a new life. Maybe he could even pay back some of the people who had lost money when his old company failed. He did not know that across the galaxy, one of the most powerful empires was working to ensure his success. He did not know that his simple act of buying lunch for a sad alien had created ripples that would soon spread throughout the known galaxy. All he knew was that somehow, his luck had changed, and tomorrow he would begin trading again. Park So-ra spent 3 days researching everything she could find about Kalari culture. What she learned made her realize that Lee Hyun had accidentally become involved in something much bigger than a simple food purchase. The Kalari were an ancient species with strict codes of honor. They valued personal integrity above wealth or power. When a Kalari received unexpected kindness from a stranger, especially during a time of difficulty, it created what they called a life debt. According to Kalari law, this debt had to be repaid 3 times the value of the original kindness. But the debt was not about money. It was about honor and respect. The Kalari would not rest until they had properly thanked the person who helped them. So-ra realized that if a Kalari royal had been on Nexus Station disguised as a food vendor, and if Lee Hyun had shown that royal kindness, Then Hyun was now under the protection of one of the galaxy's most powerful empires. And he had no idea. She decided to keep watching Hyun to see what happened next. Hyun had started making trading runs between Nexus Station and nearby systems. His first few trips were small jobs, carrying medical supplies to mining colonies and bringing rare minerals back to the station. The work was not exciting, but it was honest and profitable. What surprised Hyun was how easy everything seemed to be. Normally, new traders had trouble finding good customers and reliable suppliers. But everywhere Hyun went, people seemed eager to do business with him. On his fourth trading run, he met a reptilian alien named Salix, who offered him a contract to transport luxury goods to the Vegan system. The job paid 3 times the normal rate for that type of work. Why so much money? Hyun asked. This seems too good to be true. Salix's forked tongue flicked out nervously. Word is spreading about you, human Hyun. They say you are honest trader. They say you keep promises. In galaxy full of cheaters and thieves, honest trader is worth extra money. Hyun felt proud but confused. He had only been trading for 2 weeks. How could word about him have spread so far so fast? What Hyun did not know was that Kalari agents were quietly smoothing his path through the galaxy. They made sure he avoided dangerous trade routes where pirates operated. They recommended him to reputable customers who needed reliable transport. They even provided subtle security escort for his ship when he traveled through risky areas. All of this was done so carefully that Hyun never noticed. He simply thought he was having a remarkable run of good luck. After a month of successful trading, Hyun had earned enough money to move into better housing on Nexus Station. He also hired a security contractor to protect his ship during dangerous runs. The contractor was a former military officer named Yoon Dae-ho. Dae-ho was a serious man with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had fought in several conflicts along the Outer Rim before becoming a private security specialist. He was expensive but highly skilled. I have to ask, Dae-ho said during their first meeting, how did you afford to hire me? Most independent traders cannot pay my rates. I've been having good luck with contracts lately, Hyun said honestly. Better pay than I expected. Dae-ho studied Hyun's face carefully. In his experience, people who claimed to be lucky were usually hiding something. But Hyun seemed genuinely puzzled by his own success. Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, Dae-ho said. I'll make sure your cargo stays safe. What Dae-ho did not know was that he had been recommended to Hyun by a Kalari front company. The Kalari had researched dozens of security contractors before choosing Dae-ho. They wanted someone skilled enough to protect Hyun, but not so well connected that he would ask too many questions. Meanwhile, Sora was building her own investigation. She had discovered that several alien governments were suddenly very interested in human trade activities. The Synthoid Collective had sent new diplomatic messages to Earth, asking about expanded trade agreements. The Zephyrian Republic had offered military escort services for human cargo ships traveling through their space. Most interesting of all, the corporate hegemony had started complaining about unfair trade advantages being given to human merchants. When Sora investigated these complaints, she found that they all centered around the same trade routes that Lee Hyun was using. Something big is happening, Sora told her editor during a secure communication call. This isn't just about one lucky trader. The entire political balance of the galaxy is shifting because of whatever happened between Lee Hyun and that Kalari royal. Her editor, a gruff man named Director Chen, looked skeptical. You're saying that one human buying alien lunch has caused an international incident? That's exactly what I'm saying, and I think it's going to get much bigger. On the Kalari homeworld, Prince Vorthan was receiving daily reports about Lee Hyun's progress. The prince was pleased to see that the human was succeeding through his own hard work and natural talent for trade. But Vorthan knew that his life debt was far from repaid. We need to do more, he told his advisor Cathara. Lee Hyun has shown that he deserves success, but we have not yet fully honored the kindness he showed me. What do you suggest, Your Highness? Vorthan thought carefully. I want to invite him to the Galactic Trade Federation Summit next month. It is time for the galaxy to meet Lee Hyun officially. Cathara looked shocked. Your Highness, the Trade Federation Summit is only for major corporations and government representatives. Lee Hyun is just an independent trader. Then we will create a new category, independent human traders. Lee Hyun will represent his people at the highest level of galactic commerce. But that could cause diplomatic problems. The other species will want to know why humans suddenly have special representation. Prince Vorthan smiled. Then they will learn about human character. They will see the same kindness and integrity that Lee Hyun showed to me. Perhaps it will improve relations between all our species. Kathera still looked worried, but she knew better than to argue with a royal decision. I will prepare the invitation. 2 days later, Hyun received the most surprising message of his life. The Galactic Trade Federation was inviting him to attend their annual summit as the official representative of independent human traders. Hyun read the message 5 times before calling. Daeho, this has to be a mistake, Hyun said. I'm nobody special. I've been trading for 6 weeks. How can they want me to represent all human traders? Daeho looked at the official invitation documents. Everything appeared legitimate. The seals were genuine, the authorization codes were valid, and the invitation came through proper diplomatic channels. This is real, Daeho said slowly. Someone very powerful wants you at that summit. Hyun felt overwhelmed. 6 weeks ago, he had been broke and hopeless. Now he was being invited to the most important trade meeting in the galaxy. None of it made sense. What should I do? He asked. You should go, Daeho said firmly. Whatever is happening, running away won't help. Face it head on and find out what they want. Sora was watching from across the station's communication center when Hyun received his invitation. Through her sources, she had learned about the summit invitation hours before Hyun received it. She knew this was the moment when whatever was happening would become public knowledge. The Galactic Trade Federation summit was attended by every major power in the galaxy. If Lee Hyun appeared there as an official representative, it would send shockwaves through the political establishment. Everyone would demand to know why humans suddenly had such influence. Sora realized she was about to witness the biggest story of her career. A simple act of kindness was about to change the balance of power in the galaxy, and at the center of it all was a confused human trader, who still had no idea what he had set in motion. The Galactic Trade Federation Summit was held on a massive space station called Unity Point. The station was neutral territory, owned by no single species but governed by representatives from all the major galactic powers. Ships from hundreds of different worlds filled the docking bays. Hyun had never seen anything like it. His small cargo ship looked tiny next to the enormous diplomatic vessels and corporate transports. As he walked through the station's corridors, he saw beings from species he had only heard about in stories. Tall, graceful Etherians with translucent skin floated past him without touching the ground. Massive Stoneheart beings rolled along on tank-like treads, their rock-like bodies carved with ancient symbols. Swarms of tiny collective drones moved together like a single organism, speaking in electronic chirps. Stay close, Daeho warned, as they made their way to the registration area. This place is full of spies and assassins. Half the people here would kill you for the right price. Hyun felt overwhelmed by the size and complexity of everything around him. I still don't understand why I'm here. I'm just a small trader. These are the people who control the galaxy. Maybe that's exactly why you're here, Daeho said thoughtfully. Sometimes the galaxy needs someone who isn't trying to control it. At the registration desk, Hyun presented his invitation. The hegemony official behind the desk looked at the documents with surprise. Independent human traders? The official said in a mechanical voice. This is a new category. You are the first representative of this classification. That's what I don't understand, Hyun said. How can I represent something that didn't exist before? The official's electronic eyes blinked rapidly as it accessed databases. Records show this category was created by emergency resolution 3 days ago. Sponsored by the Kalari Empire, approved by majority vote of the Federation Council. Hyun felt his stomach drop. The Kalari Empire had created his position. But why would one of the most powerful governments in the galaxy care about human traders? As they walked away from the registration desk, Sora appeared beside them. She had been following Hyun's story for weeks and had managed to get press credentials for the summit. Mr. Lee, she said, I think it's time you learned the truth about what's been happening to you. What truth? Hyun asked. Sora looked around to make sure no one was listening. The alien you bought lunch from 6 weeks ago wasn't a food vendor. He was Prince Vorthan of the Kalari Empire. Everything that's happened to you since then, your new ship, your successful trades, this invitation, it's all because you showed kindness to a Kalari royal. Hyun stopped walking. That's impossible. He was just a sad little alien selling soup. The Kalari have something called a life debt, Sora explained. When someone shows them unexpected kindness, they have to repay it 3 times over. It's a matter of honor. You accidentally created a bond with one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Deho whistled softly. That explains a lot. I wondered why so many of our jobs seemed too easy. Hyun felt dizzy. You mean I've been living a lie? None of my success was real? No, Sora said firmly. Your success was completely real. You earned it through honest work and fair dealing. The Kalari just made sure you had the opportunity to succeed. There's a big difference. Before Hyun could respond, a tall figure approached them. It was Ambassador Choi Min-ho, Earth's official representative to the galactic government. He looked nervous and tired. Mr. Lee, the ambassador said, I need to speak with you urgently. Your presence here has created a diplomatic crisis. They found a quiet conference room where Ambassador Choi explained the situation. Every major power in the galaxy is demanding to know why humans suddenly have special representation at the summit. The corporate hegemony is threatening trade sanctions against Earth. The Synthoid Collective wants equal access to human space. The Zephyrian Republic is offering military alliances. But I don't represent Earth's government, Hyun protested. I'm just one person. Unfortunately, that doesn't matter to them, Choi said. In their eyes, your invitation means that humans have some kind of special relationship with the Kalari Empire. They want to know what that means for the balance of power. Hyun buried his face in his hands. I just bought the alien some soup. I was trying to be kind. And that kindness may have changed the course of galactic history, Choi said. The question now is what we do about it. The next morning, the summit officially began. Hyun sat in the section reserved for independent human traders, a section that had been created just for him. Around him, representatives from dozens of species conducted business that affected trillions of beings across the galaxy. The first day was mostly speeches and presentations about trade routes and economic policies. Hyun tried to pay attention, but most of the discussions were about politics and regulations that he didn't understand. On the second day, Prince Vorthan took the stage to address the summit. Hyun recognized him immediately, even though the prince now wore elaborate royal robes instead of the simple clothes he had worn as a food vendor. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Prince Vorthan began, his voice carrying easily through the vast auditorium. I stand before you today to speak about honor, kindness, and the bonds that unite us across species and cultures. The prince told the story of his time on Nexus Station. He explained how his ship had broken down and how he had disguised himself while waiting for rescue. He described meeting a human who showed him unexpected compassion. This human, Lee Hyun, saw only a being in need, the prince said. He did not know my rank or my wealth. He showed me kindness because it was the right thing to do. He gave me his last credits and wished me well when he thought I was struggling. The auditorium was completely silent. Hyun felt thousands of alien eyes looking at him. In Kalari culture, the prince continued, such kindness creates a sacred bond. Lee Hyun's compassion has earned him the eternal friendship of the Kalari Empire. Today, I formally declare him a friend of the Kalari, with all the rights and protections that title provides. The declaration sent shockwaves through the summit. Being named a friend of the Kalari was an honor that had been given to fewer than a dozen beings in the past 1,000 years. It meant that Hyun could travel freely through Kalari space, trade without restrictions, and call upon Imperial protection if needed. Since the Kalari Empire controlled about 30% of the known galaxy, this was an enormous privilege. In the diplomatic section, Ambassador Choi watched in amazement as his quiet life as Earth's representative suddenly became much more complicated. In the press section, Sora frantically took notes, knowing she was witnessing history. And in the independent trader section, Hyun sat frozen with shock, finally understanding the true scope of what his simple act of kindness had unleashed. Summit erupted into chaos as representatives from every major power began demanding private meetings with the mysterious human who had somehow become one of the most privileged beings in the galaxy. The weeks following the summit were chaos. Hyun returned to Nexus Station to find his small quarters surrounded by diplomatic representatives from dozens of species. Everyone wanted to meet the human who had become friends with the Kalari Empire. The corporate hegemony offered him millions of credits to broker exclusive trade deals. The Synthoid Collective wanted him to mediate their territorial disputes with organic species. The Zephyrian Republic promised military protection in exchange for preferential shipping contracts. I can't handle all of this, Hyun told Daeho as they sat in a rented conference room, looking at stacks of diplomatic requests. I'm not a politician. I'm not a negotiator. I just fix problems and move cargo. Maybe that's exactly what they need, Daeho said. Politicians create problems. You solve them. Ambassador Choi had moved his entire staff to Nexus Station to help manage the situation. Earth's government was overwhelmed by requests for meetings, trade agreements, and alliance proposals. Every alien government wanted to know what humanity's special relationship with the Kalari meant for them. The situation is getting dangerous, Choi warned Hyun during one of their daily meetings. The corporate hegemony is threatening war if the Kalari Empire gains too much influence through human partnerships. They're demanding that all trade agreements go through their systems. What does that mean? Hyun asked. It means they want to control everything you do. They want to tax every deal you make and approve every route you travel. Basically, they want to turn you into their puppet. Sora had been documenting everything for her news reports. Her stories about the accidental diplomat had become the most watched programs on the Galactic News Network. She had received offers from major networks across dozens of star systems. The galaxy is watching you, she told Hyun. Every species wants to know what humans will do next. Some are hoping you'll solve their problems. Others are afraid you'll make things worse. The crisis came to a head when fighting broke out along the border between Kalari space and corporate hegemony territory. Both sides claimed the other had violated trade agreements. Ships were being attacked and cargo was being stolen. Prince Forthan called Hyun directly using emergency diplomatic channels. My friend, the prince said over the communication link, I fear that my efforts to honor your kindness have created new problems. The hegemony demands that we choose between friendship with humans and peace with them. They say we cannot have both. Hyun thought about the situation for 3 days. He walked through Nexus Station, watching hundreds of different species work together peacefully. Traders from dozens of worlds bought and sold goods without fighting. Families of mixed species raised children together. Artists and musicians from different planets created beautiful works together. Why does it work here? He asked Daeho as they watched a group of alien children playing together in the station's recreation area. Because nobody's trying to control anybody else, Daeho said. They just want to live their lives and do their jobs. That gave Hyun an idea. Instead of choosing sides in the conflict, Hyun proposed something completely different. He called a meeting of all the major powers and suggested creating neutral trade zones where any species could do business freely. Nobody controls these zones, Hyun explained to the assembled representatives. No taxes, no regulations, no restrictions. Just honest trade between beings who want to buy and sell goods. The corporate hegemony representative, a tall insectoid creature named Klax, clicked his mandibles dismissively. Impossible. Trade requires structure. It requires rules and enforcement. Does it? Hyun asked. Look around this station. Hundreds of species trade here every day without major problems. Why? Because they all benefit from honest dealing. Prince Forthan was intrigued. You are suggesting that trust can replace regulation? I'm suggesting that most beings are basically good, Hyun said. They want to work hard, provide for their families, and be treated fairly. If you give them the chance to do that without interference, they'll police themselves. The Synthoid Collective representative, a cluster of networked drones, spoke in electronic harmony. But what about disputes? What about theft and fraud? You handle them the same way we handle them here on Nexus Station, Hyun said. The community decides what's fair. If someone cheats, word spreads and people stop doing business with them. If someone is honest and reliable, they get more customers. Ambassador Choi looked nervous. Mr. Lee, you're proposing to revolutionize galactic commerce. Are you sure about this? Hyun thought about the small blue alien who had been crying behind his food cart. He thought about his own struggles when his business partner had stolen everything. He thought about all the people across the galaxy who just wanted a chance to succeed through honest work. I'm sure, he said. The negotiations took 2 months. Every detail had to be worked out carefully to make sure no single species gained unfair advantage. But eventually all the major powers agreed to try Hyun's idea. The first free trade station was built in neutral space between Kalari and hegemony territory. It was designed like Nexus Station but larger, with facilities for every type of being imaginable. The rules were simple: trade freely, treat others fairly, and settle disputes through community mediation. The station was an immediate success. Traders who had been afraid to work in border regions flocked to the safe, neutral environment. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves doing profitable business together. Hyun was invited to the opening ceremony, but he chose to attend quietly, without fanfare. He walked through the market areas, watching beings from dozens of worlds work together peacefully. At one food court, he saw a familiar sight, a vendor who looked overwhelmed and worried. This time it was a young Zephyrian female, whose spice cart wasn't attracting customers. Hyun bought a container of her spices and paid extra for packaging. "These smell wonderful," he told her honestly. "I bet they'll be very popular once people try them." The young Zephyrian's face brightened with hope. "You really think so?" "I know so," Hyun said. "Keep working hard. Good things will happen." As he walked away, Hyun didn't notice the Kalari trade observer who had been watching the interaction. The observer immediately sent a message to Prince Forthan. "The human is doing it again, showing kindness to struggling vendors." Prince Forthan smiled when he received the message. His life debt to Lee Hyun had been repaid many times over. But the prince realized that Hyun would never stop being the kind of person who helped others. It was simply his nature. 6 months later, there were 5 free trade stations operating successfully across the galaxy. Trade disputes had decreased dramatically. Several species that had been on the verge of war had signed peace treaties instead. Hyun had become one of the most famous beings in the galaxy, but he still lived simply. He kept his small cargo ship and continued making trading runs between stations. He had hired a crew of beings from different species who shared his values of honest dealing and mutual respect. Sora had written a book about his story called The Lunch That Changed the Galaxy. It became a bestseller across dozens of worlds. Daeho had been promoted to security chief for all the free trade stations. He often joked that it was the strangest career advancement he had ever experienced, and Prince Vorthan had become one of Hyun's closest friends. They met regularly to discuss trade policy and exchange stories about their travels. One evening, as Hyun sat in his ship's small kitchen preparing dinner, he received a message from the 10th free trade station that was being built. A young trader was asking for advice about starting her first business. Hyun smiled as he typed his response. "Work hard, treat people fairly, and always be willing to help someone who needs it. You never know how much difference a small kindness can make." Outside his ship's window, the stars of the galaxy twinkled peacefully. Somewhere among those stars, millions of beings were trading goods, building relationships, and creating prosperity together. And it had all started with a simple bowl of soup and a 10-credit tip. Hyun finished his message and went back to cooking dinner, humming quietly to himself. Tomorrow he would deliver medical supplies to a mining colony on the Outer Rim. It was honest work that helped people, and that was all he had ever really wanted. The galaxy had changed, but Hyun had remained exactly the same. A kind person who believed in doing the right thing, no matter how small the gesture might seem.